admitting more people as they come in. All right. Okay. Well, happy Valentine's Day and welcome everyone to the Hawaii Aquaculture Tech and Research Brown Bag, sponsored by NELHA and the Hawaii Aquaculture Collaborative, which is facilitated by UHC Grant College Program. I'm Jean Schneider, representing the Sea Grant team, and Ray Nguyen is our co-host and partner at NELHA. The recording and slides of today's session will be archived on the Actions page of our website, where you will also find previous sessions and many other resources. Let's see, and I believe I'm going to ask you to mute if you are not muted yet. That would be really helpful if you're not speaking. A few quick announcements. There is a multi-agency Hawaii Aquaculture Stakeholder Workshop on February 24th. OI is having a LIMU workshop on February 29th. Please go to our website for registration info for both of these events. And we are looking forward to next month's Tech and Research Brown Bag, where HGOA will share their new strategic plan for aquaculture. Okay, and now for our main event, we would like to welcome Kristen Kiryu and Jennifer Balderas to help us understand the USDA programs and loans available for Hawaii aquaculture. I did take a quick peek at their slides and know that they have a lot of great info and resources. So we may go a little bit beyond 12:30 today. And if you have questions, feel free to stick around, or you can contact Kristen and Jennifer directly. And again, we're going to upload all this info onto our website. All right, well, let's get started. And aloha, Kristen and Jennifer, welcome.
Thank you, Jean. Appreciate the opportunity to come share a little bit about the USDA Farm Service Agency. Let me get my screen sharing up for you all. Alrighty. Well, a little bit of introduction about myself. I'm Kristen, as Jean mentioned. I'm the Farm Program Chief here at the USDA Farm Service Agency, and we service Hawaii and the Pacific Basin. So we service Guam and American Samoa and CNMI as well. Little bit about our agency. So who's FSA? Who are we, right? We are a federal agency, so we're part of the U.S. Department of Agriculture. We have two departments somewhat within FSA. So we have the disaster assistance side, which is what I kind of oversee and take care of. And then we have the farm loan side, which is what Jennifer is going to do her presentation on. So as far as the disaster assistance side of things, it is very much farm bill driven, and it is directed towards commercial farmers and ranchers. So we do have three main program areas within the program side of the house, as far as within FSA. There's three different program areas that we consider like groupings of different types of programs. So we have the crop and livestock disaster assistance, conservation programs, and then ad hoc and other programs. And then going forward through my presentation today, I'll kind of break it down which program within each of these main areas applies to aquaculture. So under the crop and livestock disaster programs, we're talking about programs that provide relief for losses due to natural disasters. So we're talking about, hurricanes and drought and flood and all these types of things. We have two main programs that apply to aquaculture producers. We have the Non-Insured Crop Disaster Assistance Program, or NAP, and then we have the Emergency Livestock Assistance Program, or ELAP. So I'm going to dive a little deeper into each of them and some of the qualifications. Of course, it's not everything that you need to know, but just some of the basics to kind of get you started. The Non-Insured Crop Disaster Assistance Program, or NAP, provides financial assistance to producers of non-insurable crops affected by natural disasters. Really what NAP is crop insurance, right? So it's insurance on your aquaculture product. That's the easiest way for me to explain what NAP is. It's really like a lot of words for really crop insurance. So it's like an insurance product. Most aquaculture operations are eligible, but not all. So it is kind of a case-by-case determination. We would encourage you to come into our office, contact one of us and say, hey, this is what my operation does. This is how I grow the crop or the fish or, whatever it is. It does cover both fish products and like shellfish. So it just depends. Mollusks as well. So things with shells, we can cover that as well under NAP. But it depends on case by case because everybody's operation is going to be different. So generally speaking, a lot of aquaculture is eligible, but not all. The crop year for aquaculture is actually our federal government fiscal year, which is October 1st to September 30th. So it's a little weird in that, the crop year doesn't follow the calendar year. The deadline to sign up is September 30th. So you just have to sign up the day before the crop year actually starts. So you're signing up before you actually have coverage because it's just like any other insurance product. You cannot ask for the coverage after the disaster hits, right? Same for like car insurance or house insurance. You have to have the insurance beforehand. So the sign up period is the whole year. You can come in now and sign up for next year, which will start October 1st of 2024. We don't necessarily have a period where we're saying it's too early to sign up. So you can always come in, October 30th and sign up for the following year, right? There is a service fee. So there's a $350 service fee per crop, unless you're historically underserved. So historically underserved would be beginning farmer rancher, limited resource farmer, rancher, or socially disadvantaged, including women. So it's pretty much you fill out a form, and if you can say that you meet one of those criteria, the NAP coverage would be free. So you don't have to pay that service fee up front. There's two types of crop insurance products. There's the basic level or catastrophic level, which is you have to have 50% loss in order to qualify for a payment. Or there's the buy-up option where you'd have to just have 35% loss in order to get a payment. Basic, there's no premium, so it's free, right? Free service fee if you have if you're historically underserved, and then free, there's no premium. Buy up, you are charged the premium. It's going to be based on your max dollar value worth of your crop. So in the beginning of the year, you would tell us, hey, my crop is worth, 1.5 million, right? So the premium is going to be based on that. Obviously, the higher your max dollar value is, the higher your premium will be. You don't have to pay the premium until the following year. So you have coverage the whole year, and then you have to pay the premium sometime in the year after that. There's a payment limit, so you can't get paid more than $125,000 if you have basic coverage, or if you have buy-up, $300,000 per year. Things that are covered under NAP will be disaster. Got to be natural disaster, right? So it cannot be because your equipment failed and your tank, did something happen to your tank. It cannot be those types of things. It has to be like a hurricane came in, ripped up your tanks, all your fish are dead, stuff like that. It's really catastrophic coverage is what we're really looking at for NAP. I did put in there some of the eligible disaster types. That's not everything, but just some of the common ones that we see here. The controlled environment requirement is part of policy. So you have to have control of the ground under the aquaculture facility and the entire water column. Meaning like you have to have a lease, or you have to have owned the land, right, where your aquaculture operation is. Indigenous species are not eligible. So if it's just a pond with native species in there, native fish in there, and you're just harvesting fish and selling it, that wouldn't be eligible. It has to be something, a commercial operation where you're inputting, fish product. And also too, we need to account for natural mortality. So, as we all know, there's natural mortality in producing, aquaculture products, that there's going to be a percentage that's going to die. So we adjust your payment based on that as well. So we wouldn't be paying for any natural mortality. Inventory documents are required for NAP. So you got to be able to give us, what was your inventory before the event happened, and then what's your inventory after the weather event happened. And there's a wide range of what's acceptable under that. It main thing, it's reliable or verifiable, some way that we can determine that, hey, you are actually keeping records, right? And you do know what your inventory is at any given time. The second program under the disaster section is called the Emergency Livestock Assistance Program, or ELAP. This program kind of covers multiple different types of crops or things, and livestock meaning. So honeybees, hive and colony losses covered, farm-raised fish and feed losses, and then livestock water hauling and feed hauling. But particularly for aquaculture, we can cover fish death and feed losses due to eligible natural disasters. So in addition to covering the actual fish itself that died during, say, like a typhoon or hurricane, we can actually cover your feed losses. So if you had feed in a container that got, swept away in a flood, or got, picked up and thrown around and destroyed in a hurricane, we'd be able to cover some of that cost as well. Eligible disaster types under ELAP, similar to what's eligible under NAP, and really for all our disaster programs is kind of somewhat similar as far as what is considered an eligible disaster type. Second part of the groupings of programs is the conservation program. So the emergency conservation program and how it applies to aquaculture would be that it's restoring and repairing your infrastructure to pre-disaster conditions, right? So a lot of the times it'll be like debris removal. We can replace fence, we can replace conservation structures, we can replace pipelines, actual infrastructure. So it has nothing to do with your actual crop or your fish. It'll be more what was your infrastructure and helping you cost share that, right? So the producer would have to front the money, and then we would go ahead and pay a percentage back on that. Again, eligible disaster type, similar, to the other NAP and ELAP. It'll be like hurricane a lot of the time. It could be flooding, things like that. And then the third bucket of programs we have is ad hoc or other programs. So we always have additional programs that get added in through the Farm Bill or special appropriation acts. One of the somewhat permanent programs that we have going on here that, aquaculture producers can take benefit from is the reimbursement transportation cost program. With this program, what it's designed to do is pay a percentage of the transportation costs we incur, because we live in Hawaii and we have to pay, so much more expense just for freight, right? So it's direct actual freight costs. So like FedEx or Matson, Young Brothers, the cost of shipping a tank in, all those things, we pay a percentage back on that. This program, the max payment that you can get is $8,000. There is sometimes a factor too, so sometimes the maximum payment is less than, but it's a good program for people to be able to apply for. It's not open all year round, so unlike NAP and ECP and ELAP, which is open year round per se, RTCP, there's a designated sign-up period, and it usually runs from July through September. Right now, obviously, it's not during the time period we can accept applications, but more information, can be found through some of the links that I'll share later. But really, the program is, really the producer has to come in, sign the application, and you have to provide receipts of what transportation costs you have. So that's sometimes a little bit tough for people, but usually if you have your receipts that you're turning in for tax purposes, we could just take copies of that, and then we can extrapolate out the transportation costs. So we're not going to pay you for the product itself, but we're going to pay you back a percentage of what the transportation cost is. So where should you start, right? We have many other programs. Those were just some of the ones that I know apply to aquaculture. But, obviously the first thing that anybody needs to do when you want to participate with FSA is that we just need your basic information, right? We need your name, your address, your tax ID number. If you're applying as an entity, we'll need your EIN number, contact information, basic information that you'd have to submit via that AD 2047 form. In addition to that, like I kind of mentioned, the land documentation, we do need land documentation to show that you have control over the land that your operation is on. So we'll ask you for lease documents or a deed or even the TMK number where we can look up the real property tax owner. In addition to some of that basic stuff. So that's really what we need to get you in our system per se, and then we can, get applications for all the different types of programs. There's different eligibility requirements for every single one of our programs, and it kind of varies, but for the most part, majority of our programs also has a $900,000 AGI limitation. So if your average AGI is over $900,000, you probably might not be eligible for some of our programs. Some of our programs don't require that eligibility need, but for the most part, majority of them do. So just a heads up that there is, multiple levels of different eligibility requirements. There's even like for entities too, another eligibility requirement we run into a lot is for larger entities that have multiple embedded entities within an entity. We have to get paperwork drilled down to an actual single member, so actual person, up until the fourth level. So sometimes, these bigger entities that have hundreds of members, they really have a hard time applying with us because they don't want to do paperwork for 100 members, right? But that's one of our requirements too that I think a lot of times people get stuck on there. But like I said, I think the best case scenario is, come into our office, we'll initiate the conversation with you, learn about your specific operation, and then we can kind of take it from there and let you know what you're eligible for. My next slide here, I just kind of wanted to give you an overall picture, and this is not just for aquaculture producers, but overall, some of the payments that we've made for the 2022 calendar year and the 2023 calendar year, we made $14.6 million worth of payments to state of Hawaii producers. For all our different types of programs. And so we're talking about, crop people, ranch people, aquaculture, flowers, everybody, all the different types of agriculture that we have here. 2023, we made 13.8 million. It's just a significant amount of money that, we're putting out there into the ag community. And so we're really wanting to be forward and make sure that everybody knows who we are so that they can come apply with us, or at least, come talk story with us up front so that we know what your operation is, and then, we can try to help you apply for programs. I did put a slide in here on how to receive our monthly e-newsletter. So we do everything through email as far as giving updates on what programs are open, and any type of information that a producer would need to know. You can also sign up for text updates. So if you go to that link, you scroll all the way to the bottom, hit that subscribe button, you'll be able to select what you want to subscribe to. You don't need to subscribe to everything that we would send you, but be able to look at that too. Or you can call our offices and we can help you subscribe too. So if you call our office and say, hey, I want to subscribe to the monthly newsletter, we can put it in for you so you don't have to go this route of doing it yourself. We do have offices on all of the main Hawaiian islands. I just put the Hawaii County address in there, but we do have offices on all of the main Hawaiian islands. So if you go to that link right there, you'll be able to find your service center. So if you're on an island other than Big Island, you can go ahead and find your local service center and you'll be able to go into that office or give them a call. Or you can also just contact Jennifer or I and we can point you in the right direction. But thanks, Jean. Anybody got questions for me?
Wow, thanks, Kristen. Really great. And while we're transitioning to Jennifer, there was a question for you from Neil Sims. So does the NIP cover limu?
Yeah, so I knew that question was gonna come up. I knew that question was, unfortunately, NAP does not cover limu, but ELAP does. So if you ever have a disaster that damages all your crop, you can definitely come and sign up for ELAP. So one of the things I didn't really mention is between NAP and ELAP, it's sort of paying you for the same thing, right? Because we're paying you for your loss of your crop. So we're paying you for your loss of your limu, right? Meaning you no longer can market it. You no longer can sell your limu. Something happened. I don't know, say a typhoon, a hurricane came in and wiped out all your tanks. So what we would do is we would look at your inventory. So I assume limu is based on pounds, right? You would say, hey, before the disaster, I had, 300,000 pounds or whatever, 100,000 pounds. After the disaster, I'm left with 0. NAP and ELAP are paying for the same thing. So really doing the ELAP route is really and ELAP is actually better because there's no payment limitation versus NAP where you're stuck at 125. So we can pay you for the same exact thing in ELAP. It's just complicated. But long story short, NAP, no, Limu's not eligible. Limu is eligible under ELAP.
Great. Thank you, Kristen. And Jennifer, did you want to share your screen?
Yes, I will share it now.
That was a great question, Neil. Thank you.
Okay. Let's see.
Yes, we see your screen.
All right, everybody can see that. Thank you, Jean, for inviting us. I met Jean at one of our, what is it, Hawaii. Oh, shoot. I can't think of the name now, Jean.
Ag partnership meeting. Yeah.
And so we were kind of conversing about how we can maybe provide some information about our programs, because I think a lot of individuals, farmers, organizations do not know about our loan program. And we just want to make that available to everyone so that they know, we do have funds available at low interest for commercial producers. So with the farm loan programs, I am the, technical difficulties. Let's see. Here we go. I am the farm loan manager for Hawaii County, and I work mainly on the Big Island, and I also am the manager for American Samoa. But this information that I'm sharing with you today is provided throughout our nation, and it supports all of the farm loan programs, and it goes through all the same rules and regulations that are available for the farm loan program throughout the nation. So our loan programs are direct and guaranteed loans, and we do help producers kind of start, expand, or recover from disasters. And we have two types. Generally, there's guaranteed and direct. With the direct, you're working with us, the farm loan manager, the loan official within the county that you're located in. With the and it's for those who are unable to get commercial credit. So if you cannot get a loan with a commercial lender or a guaranteed loan with the commercial lender, then you would work with us. And then the guaranteed loan, you work with the conventional lender and use their rate versus our rate. We have two types of loans that we can provide. Operating loan. So depending on what you want to do you need to purchase equipment? Do you need to set up your tanks? Do you need to purchase the fish? Then it just depends on what you would like to do for that type of loan. If it is minor improvements, I know depending on the tank size, depending on how you're setting up the size of the operation, that may be feasible to pay it back in 7 years, and it may not. So for our operating loan, we can do those types of repairs or improvements depending on cash flow, depending on whether or not it's going to work within a 7-year turnaround time. And then our current rate for February is 5.125. The term is also broken down by like the collateral, how soon. If it's an annual expense, let's say you had to buy the feed, then that's something we would expect for you to pay back within 1 to 2 years, because we don't want to incur that cost onto the next cycle for production. But if it's longer term, machinery, equipment, the tanks, then we can term that out up to 7 years. Our ownership loan, we can help you buy property, whether it's vacant land or it has a house or it has a building or it has a structure. That really depends on your application and your operation. We can go up to 40 years, which is 10 over your typical lender. And we can do our direct ownership loan rate, which is 600,000. You can combine that. Let's say you're a strong applicant and you need the down payment because you don't have it for your commercial lender. we can lend you up to the 600,000 and do that joint, where it says joint FO on the screen. That's a joint financing. So that is our rate for FSA's portion of the loan. And this is where we would term out those major capital improvements. Like if you were putting up tons of tanks, or you had to put in a cement pad and hoop house to cover the tanks, or however your structure is, then this is where we can term it out up to 40 years. And all of that is going to depend on cash flow too. So basically, this is our process. You complete an application. We help you with the eligibility when it's our direct loan program, kind of to know the rules and regulations and how is it going to work. And then is it feasible? Does it cash flow? We are looking at your farm income and your non-farm income. So that's where it gets a little, might be a little bit intrusive, or you might think we want to know all about your life. And that's because we just want to make sure that we are providing a loan that is something that can be paid back, but also that is something that is going to help your operation. If you're applying for 400,000 operating loan and it doesn't look like we can provide you that much money because it doesn't look like it's going to cash flow, and you're going to be negative or in the red, your margin after all the debt is serviced is not looking good, then we can reduce the amount. We would never provide a loan to someone where it doesn't look like they could afford it. And our process is basically we're approving on projection. So we are looking at your historical records and how that relates to the projection that you provided. And then we do a determination within 30 to 45 days. That all depends on how complete your application is, if there's any additional questions, if it's a little complicated, whether or not an environmental review needs to be completed. Because we have federal funds, so we do need to work in cooperation with Fish and Wildlife and the State Historic Preservation Department for any cultural artifacts. And that'll all be that we explain that all when we talk about your process, your application, and how it's going to work. And then these are just a few of our regulations that we have to follow. We do not have a AGI, but because the verbiage in our regulation is that as long as you're unable to get credit elsewhere. So if you're a really strong financial candidate, your credit score is great, you have non-farm income, your operation is netting a profit, then our program might not be the one for you. Or if you just need the down payment, then that's where we can kind of fit you. And like I mentioned, we do look at a lot of information. We're going to kind of figure out how much money you spend in a year to live, plus your personal debt, plus the farm and the non-farm, to kind of figure out, can we do the loan? And then just some tips is to schedule time with the loan officers. We can go discuss all of these things, including the environmental portion, whether or not it's feasible and how it's going to help our commercial farmers and ranchers in the island or the location that you're at. And then for us in Hawaii County, I know we have some people that are located on the Big Island. We do have locations in Hilo is primarily where we're located. And then we do appointments at our Kealakekua office. And then myself and then Brandon service the island. And then as far as where else you can find contacts, we do have Michael, who services Honolulu and Kauai, and then Darren, who is the manager for Maui. That includes Molokai and Lanai, and then our farm loan chief, Richard Buddy Nichols. So I also have additional resources that we always put out there depending on who we're working with. Sometimes we have startups and they really want to know, how can they get help to prepare themselves? And then of course, we are always trying to make it user-friendly, as customer service based as possible. So we do meet with everyone and kind of explain everything and ask questions and make sure that all of your questions are answered too. And that's all that I have.
Awesome. Mahalo, Jen. And I did see a note from Kristen asking Neil to contact her because there may be a way to fit Limu into one of their programs. So Neil, please connect with Kristen. But what other questions does the audience have for Kristen or Jennifer?
If I might, Jean. Thanks, Kristen. I will follow up with you. I just did have a question. It wasn't clear to me as to why, if we've got a Limu operation, why we would go, even if we were eligible for NAP, why would we go for NAP when we've actually got to pay a premium there rather than going under the ELAP where we wouldn't have, it's free, essentially, is what it seemed like. We don't have to pay the premium. I don't understand where there is the advantage in the NAP. Why wouldn't we just coast along under the ELAP?
Yeah, so the NAP, and that's a really good question. So they're both very similar, but there's some slight differences in policy when it comes to both of the programs. NAP, it's not required. Like a lot of the time, our operations will qualify for free NAP, right? And it's catastrophic level. So NAP is based on your inventory. So NAP, what we're doing is we're looking at your before disaster inventory and then your after disaster inventory and then paying you based on your value that you lost. Under ELAP, the payment is similar, but we're paying you per, not necessarily value that you lost, but per what designated price we've assigned to your production loss, right? So, but I understand what you're saying. To me, personally, I think ELAP is better because there's no payment limitation and you have to choose between the two. You can't get both payments because it's paying you for similar things. I think NAP was not designed specifically for aquaculture. To be honest, it's designed for crops and other value loss products like floriculture or like maple sap, ginseng, all these crops that are grown in the ground. ELAP was kind of designed to kind of be the catch-all program that didn't work for, you know, all the other programs. So in the very beginning when they created NAP, I don't think it was meant for aquaculture producers. So the way the product is produced is not doesn't quite follow policy under the NAP program. So they kind of had to create this ELAP program, which was an offshoot on the side, where, you know, we could cover some of the things that aren't covered in NAP. But you and I can discuss that, you know, in detail, and definitely I'd be willing to talk to you about how we can, you know, get some of the crops that aren't covered, and then talk about some of the detailed differences of the both programs.
Thank you very much. Thanks both to you and to Jennifer. This has been great. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Any other questions from any of our producers? All right. And, you know, I just had one question, you know, Kristen, I wondered if you could give us an example of someone who successfully accessed NAP or ELAP or ECP or, you know, maybe without disclosing who the producer is, but has, you know, an aquaculture producer been successful in accessing these resources?
Yep, definitely. We haven't had any recent applications for Hawaii, but we had a recent one in Guam, which we paid out a significant amount of money. And so it was an aquaculture operation for tilapia. It was in-ground ponds. You know, obviously they managed the actual pond and they, you know, the water quality, and they had feeding automatic feeding things and all of these things. So the typhoon came in late, I think it was in May of last year. The typhoon came in and pretty much destroyed everything. It kind of flooded the ponds, messed with the pH. All the fish died, or a significant portion of the fish died. So we were able to help pay for that poundage of loss in fish. And then that same operator also got paid under ELAP, so both under ELAP on the feed side, because he had a giant container full of his feed, right, that he had purchased. And so he lost like $50,000 worth of feed because somehow the container kind of got flipped on its side. All the feed was destroyed. All the feed got wet. So here in Hawaii, we don't have any true success stories yet. I think, Jen and I, that was part of why, we really thank you for allowing us to be here, because we want to do more outreach to the aquaculture community and have, them come to us. I think a lot of it too is a learning experience for us. We need to learn about the different types of aquaculture that we have here and the different individual operations, and then we can try to figure out how we can help make our programs fit each individual operation.
Yeah, thanks, Kristen. And can I ask if any of this can be retroactive? Like I know, like what's the time frame? Because I do know some producers have lost some of their crops, but maybe this happened during COVID or something, but yeah.
Right. Oh, great question. I didn't really throw it in there because it's, really detailed per program, but in general, we need the producer to notify us within 30 days.
Oh.
So the event happens, you call us and you say, hey, this is what happened to my operation. What do you have for us? Right. So that upfront slide that I had about, just getting your name in, getting started, it just helps us along the process as far as the next step. Right. So really that initial conversation when you come into our office should be like, hey, okay, let me get your business into the system. You're here, you're a producer, that we have your information. If at any time you have a disaster related event that you have a loss from, whether it's infrastructure or the actual product itself, give us a call within 30 days and we do what's called a notice of loss. So NAP and ELAP, we were required to do what's called a notice of loss. So that's a great question, because yeah, we wouldn't be able to cover anything that, happened, long ago. If it's something that happened within the past 30 days, it's something that, we could try to get covered. Normally too, we have a lot of policy changes where they extend deadlines. So sometimes it could be, where they would say instead of 30 days, we're giving people the whole entire year to report, right? So it depends per program. But in general, I like to tell people, let us know as soon as you know. As soon as you know you have a loss, give us a call.
Okay, thank you. And Ame has a question.
Thank you. Sorry, my camera's not working at the moment, but I had a question for Jennifer. Like for us, in order to apply for your loan program, we're a small research operation currently. We're not in production quite yet. We're still working out the numbers, and we've worked up the product that we would be doing, got the research done. We're getting lab work done to verify our values and the nutrient contents of the feed that we're trying to produce, or feeds matrix that we're trying to produce that other feed producers can build on top of. So we haven't really gamed out a cash flow or an income statement or any of the type of financial paperwork that would be needed in order to apply for like traditional loans through banks. I do work with American Savings Bank, a manager at one of the branches locally, and he's been directing us in a pathway to which maybe in the future, once we get some type of validation on our product and process, that we'll be able to then apply for a loan through their bank. And should we get denied, I'm wondering if we could then apply to your program, but then what are the minimum type of qualifiers? Thank you.
Okay, so our microloan that I briefly referenced on there in the operating loan, if that is what you're looking for as far as operating funds, the microloan, you don't have to have historical information. You can be a startup. You can be somebody who is just starting out and you need some funds to kind of get the operation going and start buying what you need to get your product out there. You would put together a projection for us as far as how much you think you can sell and the price per pound or per fish or per whatever aquaculture product you're selling, so that we can have an idea as to what you're projecting. And then we work together to kind of figure out, okay, is this a conservative projection? You're not going to sell it for $50 a pound, depending on what it is, so that we can go ahead and get an application in, and we've discussed it. So it's not something that you necessarily have to have. I've seen where people work with the SBDC, and they put together years of projections. That is great, and that is a good resource to help you put together what you think your numbers are going to look like. We don't necessarily need to have all of that research. We are going based off, okay, what are you going to do in the next 12 months? And then what are you going to do in your typical year? And where did you get your price from? And how are you going to project your yield? And that's what would be required for the projection, and then all your expenses. So if you have a working set of numbers right now, that's great. And I would say, you know, as you work on that, it's something, depending on how much research you're doing, as I'm not an expert in aquaculture, I work with the numbers side of it. So it would be me following up with you on questions on that. Then you could potentially put in an application sooner rather than later. Does that help?
Yes, thank you very much. We're working on feed, so the product that helps develop fish or shrimp, those kind of products for the aquaculture industry. So our numbers are based on like how many poundage we can produce per week, the average sale price based on the market value of competitive products in the market. So for us, in our market, there's like Scattering or Skeetering is one of the brands. Purina is another brand of fish feed. There's also ones that are custom recipe, or they're composed custom by several shops that will produce it. We recently had a presentation by, I think it's Jean, sorry, I think it's Diamond Head Feed Production, or
yes,
the Diamond Head Feed Mill.
yes.
Okay, yeah, they're working on developing a feed mill here, which would need inputs. So we're basically, our startup is working on the input, the thing that would help support what they're doing with the fish scraps. Basically, they're collecting fish scraps from around the island that go into making sushi, sashimi, your poke, and all of that, all the waste that gets thrown away. And we're working with waste products from other food industries like coffee, tofu, chicken, other programs where we can take those waste products and then through a process of fermentation, break it down into a more nutrient-rich, mineral-rich form that then can be incorporated into a type of pellet or a feed film that is then used to produce the other products.
Yeah, thank you, Ame. And let me just mention that we're going to be hearing more about Ame's research, I think in April. Yeah, so we're really looking forward to that. But, you know, thank you for staying longer, guys. And, you know, Kristen and Jennifer, wow, fabulous resources. I'm hoping that people will connect with you, and, you know, we'll post this all on our website so that people will have access. But thank you so much for being here. And thanks to all for attending today. We'll see you next month or sooner.
Thank you.
Jean.
Aloha, mahalo, thank you.
Thank you very much.